Yes, here we are, and today we are in, where are we, Jim?
We're in the Historical Society basement. It's part of the museum here in Arcadia.
And how cold out is it, Mary?
It is a balmy 7 below zero. This morning it was a blistering 13 below zero. And you are joining us today for an episode of The History Files.
She just about said, name that road, I'll bet.
No, I did not. I'm Mary C. Anderson, and here's a compadre who is
Nancy Bergman, and
I got dragged in here, Jim Lasinski.
much against his will. Yeah, we forced him anyway. Yeah, it's too cold to be doing an outdoor program.
correct.
Yeah. And so we are here in the basement. If you hear a fan, that's because there's a furnace vent behind us. So that's the way it is in these productions anyway.
Absolutely, because we're at a remote studio.
Yeah, this is the remote studio. And today is something we do about once a year. I bring in some pictures that I have found, like, off the web, and we look at them and comment on them and just have a little fun, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes, and you notice that I am strategically sitting in between Jim and Mary, and that way there should not be any hair pulling or ear pinching or anything else, right?
That Jim and I are safe. We're on Nancy's both sides to control Nancy.
Right.
We have her hooked up to a very slight electrical pulse.
Yeah,
so if she wiggles, you know what's going on.
All right, so let's look at, now, oh yeah, if you hear it ticking, it's not our hearts, it's my kitchen timer, because I couldn't figure out how to do it on the phone.
It's the trusty kitchen timer.
It is. I said I was too embarrassed to have to call my kids to ask them how to work it on the phone. So that's what it is.
Well, at least today I and Mary didn't have to pitch in for gas.
That's right. That's right. And what a way to start off 2025 with the History Files.
Yeah. So now this first picture. What do you think?
Isn't this supposed to be a happy time of the year?
That's not my relation.
Okay, do we know who these people are, or that they're just dressed up for Easter?
But these kids look like, especially the girl on the right, looks like she's ready to punch somebody.
Maybe the bunny was scratching her with, because bunnies have sharp claws.
I don't know, but they said that in the 20s and 30s it was considered trendy to have pictures with these big stuffed Easter bunnies.
That could be possible. That's why we've evolved.
Yes.
Well, now you can just about drive down any street and get a picture with the Grinch at Christmas.
That's right.
Big blow-up things.
Or a dinosaur. That's real Christmassy, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how that all fits in there with the baby Jesus story, but I could be wrong.
So here's another one. And
that's kind of a scary looking Easter bunny.
This is 1958, it said. But yeah, these kids don't look real thrilled either, do they?
I know they had white rabbits before, because it was when we did the McGillivray down there, they were talking about the prairie and the white rabbits. This is maybe one of the species we don't see anymore.
It could very well be.
It's a big one.
It's 58 Easter bunny portraits become popular, and in 1959, child psychologists' offices are invented.
Kind of a coincidence there, isn't it?
That's kind of, Jim, what I'm wondering here.
You bet.
Well, yeah, they don't look real happy, do they? And if you've got nothing else going on.
I've almost seen that already. I knew one gentleman used to haul his calves down in the back, so I mean, this does not surprise me.
But you saw people that drove around with pigs?
No, they'd haul a calf in the back to town. They didn't have a pickup, so it did do the job, but this here is a little bit different, but it works.
You know, Jim, I had a Ford Escort wagon. Best little car I ever had. Fuel mileage was great, and if you hog-tied Jersey calves just right, you could get 4 of them in the back hatch.
Wouldn't surprise me. I know the police here in town during brother days once they had a skunk in the back of their car. I mean, you could have anything possible here.
How did you know about that?
Well, that's just rumors. Yeah.
See, these are trends, Nancy, that continue
I believe
today.
Sam Voss had to go in there and remove the culprit.
Oh, really? Big Sam, he wasn't afraid of nothing, was he?
Evidently not.
Oh, look at this.
Well,
Now that's a barred rock chicken, is it not?
yeah, but I think what we're interested here is the fact is that it's hooked to a wagon. And it's a rabbit with a wagon load of eggs.
What is this supposed to depict?
Well, I think it is.
Easter scene or
I guess
broiler
so.
days or what?
Well,
what
I
is
think
it?
Well, it
it's-
could be either, yeah.
I think it's
Good point.
I think it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Could be.
All in
On the
one
row.
row.
Tomorrow's menu.
The chicken does not look impressed.
No.
And the bunny looks like the chicken is doing something wrong. Maybe he's not, tightening up on that rein just
And
right.
$10 worth of eggs in the back of that little wagon too, I'll
Yeah,
have you
no
know.
kidding. That's right. With the price of eggs.
Absolutely.
But that is not something you see every day.
No.
No.
I've
Not usual.
yet to train a chicken to pull a bunny in a wagon.
Have you ever tried?
No.
Well,
No.
how do you know?
Oh, here's another one.
But these aren't chickens.
No, those are domestic white turkeys.
Yeah.
And it looks like one's for sure a hen, and maybe the one on the backside is a rooster because it looks like he's got a little dark spot on his chest.
Tom, yeah, it's
Yeah.
highly possible there.
Yeah.
It-
But they've got a nice little harness.
I don't think they'd move that very far though. A
No, they
little
don't.
wing action maybe would help, but outside
Yeah,
of
get
that.
some propulsion going behind it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but he is loaded down, and we always think of Santa with the reindeer. Well, why not turkeys?
Well, because he'd probably need a bunch of them.
This is maybe during the Depression. Times
Yeah.
were kind of tough back then.
Yeah.
Because
You had to use whatever you could.
yeah, there we go. And maybe there was somebody up front, they had a little hook or something that would kind of help them along a little bit.
Throwing corn out for them to follow.
Yeah.
Move ahead a little bit.
Definitely.
I bet he had to use that whip.
Well, and I bet you that was Christmas dinner too.
They could be these could be all meal related. We're not really sure how they got these pictures. That maybe it is some kind of a chef thing.
Oh my goodness.
All right, now this is more serious.
Okay,
Do you have any
serious.
idea what this is?
Yes,
Oh, good.
I do. Can
What
I?
is it?
Can I go?
It isn't-
Yeah.
If you look at the gentleman, he's wearing a military hat,
Yeah.
and those are homing pigeons.
Right, and this is actually a wagon. It's on wheels.
I
yeah.
believe we just talked about this yesterday,
Yeah.
or day before the yesterday
Right. We
here
were
in a different
talking-
video, but they don't know that yet.
No, this was actually in World
Wow.
War One. Homing pigeons were like a secret weapon
Right.
Mhm.
because they used them to send messages. And they had these trucks all fitted out, and that was where the pigeons would roost or whatever they do before they would send them out
Missions.
on missions. Yeah,
You want to hear something very interesting?
sure.
About 3 weeks ago, it must have been like New York City or someplace, they were decommissioning a chimney. And
Uh-oh.
in that chimney,
Uh-oh.
they found the skeletal remains of a pigeon,
Oh,
and those skeletal remains around the leg
Had a message.
had a message.
oh no! It
In-
never got.
And
me.
he never made it back
Oh.
to deliver that message to the Americans.
It didn't say feed me.
Well, they figured he fell in the chimney and couldn't get back out.
That's high up.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what happened here when these didn't fly well. We're back to the lunch thing.
Yeah,
well, I'm
and
sure
there
they
we go.
were.
There's
Squab.
People were practical back then.
Nancy has a really good recipe in her recipe book for pigeon
squab.
pie.
Now here's something else. Here's
Oh, look at that. Oh, that one's got a
a
camera.
pigeon cam. So
Modern drone.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
more
a
or
modern
less.
drone.
Yeah.
See, we're learning a lot, and it's probably got a little GoPro on it, right?
Yeah, but how
That's the new model that
have
they're.
they taught the pigeon to hit some kind of a button to take pictures, or is it just going all the time?
That would be a question to try to dig up an answer for.
Yeah, I've never seen one of these pigeon cams before.
It's your picture. You tell us.
But you don't know. I mean, maybe pigeons that we see flying around town and everything. How do we know they aren't set up like this?
There's cameras everywhere.
I know.
If people haven't noticed, there's cameras everywhere.
And so there could be pigeon cams out there. We don't know.
Absolutely, but now they'd be smaller.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'd be the size of your thumbnail, probably.
Yeah, more streamlined.
Yeah.
And in fancy colors because everybody likes a little bling, right?
So the takeaway is you better behave because
I'll take your word for it.
because Big Brother is watching, apparently, in the form of a pigeon. So, all right. Now we talk about having, mud.
Mud season.
Look at this mud, though.
Oh, those poor horses and those poor guys. Their feet must have weighed 500 pounds.
This was World War I, and in the summer of 1918, it just never stopped raining, they said.
Yes.
It never stopped. And it was just terrible because you can see what happened. They just got bogged down in that mud.
Oh my goodness.
And these trenches that they had, they filled up with water
Yeah.
and mud.
And you couldn't advance a trench because the firing kept you there in the same spot. So
And the horses are carrying shells.
Yep, look at that. They're great big shells, aren't
Wow.
they? Yeah. So, you'd want to be careful. Don't get the horses
wrong
too
place at
worked
the
up.
right time. It's another meal. See, I'm telling you, this whole
This
thing
is-
is a
yeah.
meal-orientated
It's
film.
making me hungry.
History files with dinner on the move.
But this had to be such misery. And what happened to these guys that were stuck in these trenches, if they couldn't get their feet dry, they could get trench foot.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And you've heard of that. And that was terrible. It was like your foot rotted
Yeah.
away.
Well,
Like
yeah.
jungle rot,
Yeah.
same principle, yeah.
Just terrible.
Keep
So-
your feet dry.
Yes, by all means.
That's
So
good practice.
You could just title this as Things Could Be Worse. Now, it's cold out today, but this is how the natives that lived around here, they didn't go to Florida in the winter.
So, do you think those are bison hides? Or
No,
would-
This is bark.
that's bark.
Oh, that's
This
a
is tree
bark lodge.
Bark and maybe like deer hides up here.
Okay, and it looks like there is maybe a bison hide for the door.
It's highly possible, yeah.
Yeah, or
You
bear.
know.
Or bear.
Or bear.
By
yeah.
Cedar Creek down there, they found an imprint from a lodge similar to this.
Oh, yeah?
And they figured the person that was there, they were eating acorns and such over winter because they were kind of on starvation diet.
Oh,
They
boy.
figured maybe the person, for some reason, could not move to Iowa or go kind of south for
Yeah.
the winter. They wintered there because the shells and the nuts and stuff were just throwing on top of the ground. They weren't throwing it into a,
Like a fire?
disposal pit or
Yeah.
something. The ground was froze. You couldn't, so you just ate the shell, the nut part, and threw the shells outside because they were just laying on the surface. But they
Wow.
figured it probably was a person in there that was maybe broken leg or something, the reason that they
move.
stayed
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
And the floor was black and dirty from tramping back and forth to help stay warm. I mean, these things weren't probably the warmest things to live in, but it was still cheaper than being outside
Oh,
or warmer, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Absolutely.
walk in a shed nowadays and this morning, you get off the wind, boy, it's warm in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, not after a
Absolutely.
few minutes, but it is when you first get in.
And they said, though, that actually the way they had these things designed with the hides and the bark, that was a really efficient, good model for this climate, that it worked very well. That was good insulation.
In Europe, they use thatch, you know, and the smoke going through the thatch kept
Sure.
the bugs and the animals out of the thatch. So
Hopefully.
they lasted for many years, yes.
Hopefully.
And these here, they could load them up on a travelway or whatever and move
Yeah,
farther, you know.
Right,
So
right. They were portable.
you bet.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah, so we feel sorry for ourselves. Well,
They had it a little bit tougher than we did, but
but here they are making actual birch bark
canoe, yes. I think
And
there's a video I seen on TV of that where they had someone here from Wisconsin make a complete canoe. I think it's on PBS.
Wow.
Like this.
I shouldn't be
Look
promoting a different station, but I mean,
That's
Yeah.
all
I
right.
did see it.
But look at the size of those bark sheets.
It had to come off a pretty big tree, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
those trees had to be huge. But you know, birch doesn't live forever.
Hmm.
It's got a kind of a young life to it. But those must have been some pretty big trees.
So we always hear about birch bark canoes, but it wasn't little pieces of bark that they were using. They got great big, unrolled it apparently.
Big sheets.
Yeah.
And I think it did the tree in.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure it
You know,
did.
because
Yeah.
they took the cambrium layer off. They needed that pliable layer so they could leather strip it together. They'd sew it together, and then with pine pitch, they would seal it.
Yeah, I was wondering how they sealed it. Probably
Yeah,
pine pitch.
Pine pitch and
yeah.
little charcoal for color, and
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
there's a technique to it, yeah. And we're losing all them traits.
Yes, because it's not documented.
There you go.
And last year, Mary and I did a show about how the Irish had these boats made out of oxhide.
Yes, I've seen those too, the round ones. Yeah.
Yep, and they were using tallow and,
Yes.
and sheep oil, lanolin, whatever they call it, to seal it up with.
Yep.
Because they had to have something. So,
Well, nothing ever went to waste.
no, they used what they had. Okay,
That's familiar.
Oh, that's cute. Look at that.
that's how people used to take baths.
What do you mean
right?
used to?
Oh, used to. Okay, all right.
Hey, I have pictures of all three of my sons sitting in wash tubs. Actually, it was a kitchen sink.
And that stove looks
Yeah.
familiar too, doesn't it?
That
It
looks like the
does.
old home comfort.
You betcha.
And
That's a
there's the
pretty
coffee
stove.
pot up there.
Yep.
And they're in the kitchen. There's the wainscoting.
We're the last generation yet. I'll still kind of remember what those pictures were, but yeah,
Yeah.
That could be
imagine.
Jim. That could be you, Nancy.
no freckles, can't be me.
But a lot of people liked this picture and they remembered, either doing this or their grandparents doing it or whatever.
That's where it came. Don't throw
Absolutely.
the baby out with the wash water.
right. That's right.
Because the baby got the last bath of the water.
Probably.
Which was kind of scientifically wrong. You know what I mean? As far as spreading germs or whatever. But
Yeah, that's not
If
Dr.
it had that
Spock's
old-
baby book.
if it had the old lye soap in there probably no germs in there anyhow. But that's another issue. I have to make,
Oh,
making lye soap.
Here we go. We're going down memory lane here, Jim and Mary.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, so I figure, what do we got here?
Milk cans.
Yep, it looks like it's in the spring house, isn't it?
Yes,
Where
it
they
is.
Put it down in there to keep it cool.
You betcha. And that took some muscles to get
Yes.
that thing back out of there. Those are 85-pound cans.
Those are big
Talk to
cans.
Francie Peel up here. He'll tell you how heavy they are, and you throw them up on a couple decks and a truck.
We still have a rack like that.
What's the rack for?
The rack is for after
the cans
everything's
are
clean.
empty. They're
Yep.
dry and keep them upside down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had
Kind of
no
prevents the
idea.
dead mouse in the bottom theory, you know.
Nobody likes dead mice in their milk. That's a fad that went away years ago.
And here we are, more memories.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the question is, are those milking shorthorn or are those
Ayrshire.
Ayrshires?
I'm guessing Ayrshire.
You think so? They're kind of thick in the back end, though.
Yeah, but there's more of a udder here.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah.
So,
We can agree they're probably brown and white, otherwise we'll start an argument
That's
here.
right. That's right. Although I'm favor to both of those breeds.
so he probably had one of those little
They
push
could,
things.
they could be Holstein.
They could be Holstein.
Original
Yeah.
Holsteins were red.
Yes, yes. And then once the Holstein
So-
breed went black, then the reds, like in the 70s and the 80s, the reds were the pariah of the registered herds.
You betcha.
Oh boy, they didn't want a red calf coming out of a cow.
I had red ones, I said, and they milked just as well as the other
Yeah,
ones.
they
They,
were
kicked just as hard too.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with them.
Absolutely. One spring we had 10 red and white heifer calves in a row.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
one
was-
bull did throw a lot of heifers.
Yeah.
It was all AI, you know, and I says,
Yeah.
he did throw heifers.
And
And
they
they
were
were good.
red.
They were good cattle, yeah.
And they were red.
Because and it was only a small percentage of the gene, but it was the right gene at the right time, and you got girls.
Well, and I thought when I got this picture, this is how so many guys wound up getting new hips and knees.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
Absolutely.
That was pretty hard.
I had the limp to go with it yet. So.
Yeah. When you go,
Farmer's a young man's game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a farmer alive that over 50 can drive a nail over his head. The rotors are all gone.
Well, now we're shifting to the logging camps.
Oh, those poor guys. They work so hard.
They look like they're pretty happy, though,
I
don't
know,
they?
yes.
Yeah.
That's because they probably just had lunch.
Well,
They're all
could be.
dressed up. Everybody put
Yeah.
on their best
Oh, it
because
could be a church day too.
Yeah, I bet these guys were good church
you
goers.
actually think there was a lot of church going?
Well, yeah.
I think so.
We can have hope that there was a little bit of praying
There maybe
going
was
on.
some, maybe like in service, I said a minister would come and you didn't care the denomination as long as there was one. So
Yeah.
this might have been the same situation. If a minister did come by, they maybe stood outside at the time because they didn't feel like they were worthy to go in the building itself. But yeah,
But what I always notice is that they all had their pants were short, weren't they?
Yes.
hand-me-downs.
No, I think that was the reason. There had to be a thing about going through the snow, right?
I suspect so, yeah.
Yeah.
Easier to tie your shoes too. They had them high-top shoes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
They weren't wearing those nice insulated boots that we have now, anyway.
Well, and I'm sure they didn't want to get anything caught because if you're tromping around in the woods
Yeah.
and your pants are dangling,
What?
well, you know how your pants, if you're
Pant cuff gets caught on something. Yeah, I
Okay.
can see that be possible. Yeah.
Yep, that makes
And the
sense.
material was better because years ago, if you jumped over a fence and your blue jeans got caught on the top barb, you went to the ground with your nose first because it didn't rip
true.
the pants. It
That's
smashed the
true.
person.
No.
They had heavy material in those old clothes.
So this is inside where they slept, the bunkhouse.
I think, yeah, we talked about that one time about
Yeah. And this guy, I'm not sure, someone said he was probably going to get a haircut or something. I think he's just taking a nap by that nice warm stove, probably.
and it looks like they've got laundry hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, God, can you imagine what it smelled like in there?
Well, it's all guys.
Right.
You ever been into
And they
or-
probably did not take a bath every night or every week.
that. Well, it
Have
didn't
you-
help when they had beans for supper either.
All you have to do is go to the high school at the end of the varsity football game on a hot night and smell the boys as they come off the field.
Why would I want
And
to
that's
do
going to
that?
be probably what that smells like.
Well, and they're here, they're even sharpening. They've got a grindstone right
Uh-huh.
in there to keep everything sharp. And the boots and everything are hung up there. I thought you could probably smell wet wool socks.
Oh,
when
yeah.
they're
I could just
drying.
imagine the
My
flavor
teeth
coming out of
hurt
that.
just thinking about wet wool. Ever
Yeah.
bite into a wet wool mitten?
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's hard. It's hard on your teeth.
Or not feel well and get covered with that green horse blanket, that old army kind of a thing.
That always seemed to
Built-
make the fever more itchy.
Built-in
didn't it?
itch. Built-in itch. Perfect for if you've got measles or something like that,
So here's maybe these are the same
The
guys.
same guys, yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Oh.
yeah, that's him. I could see the guy
Yeah.
with the mustache. That's him.
Yeah. And there's-
Same bunch.
They're bunks, and they had straw in like a tick. And I heard people say that when they came out of the woods in the spring, and they got back home,
Wow.
that they usually had to burn their clothes.
Oh, I would.
What was left of them? Yeah, I suspect
Well,
so.
and shave their heads
Get rid of the
because-
lice.
because of the lice.
Ah. Boy, smelly and lacey. But you know what? Those guys built our nation.
You bet.
Right?
Look at the logs
Yeah.
that came out of the state and the industry had made. The buildings that were created, I said with the lumber that these guys
Yeah.
had to rough out of the woods.
Absolutely.
And these were not small trees. I
No.
mean,
That's true.
this was tough work.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
these
was.
guys had to be mean.
And like we said, they didn't log in Trempealeau County. We didn't have the logs. But that was a lot of people left from the county and went up to the
Yeah.
pineries and worked over winter. And that's how they got the money to eventually buy their farm. And
And then after a while for farming, I said a lot of them went to the Dakotas. They'd
Yeah.
go and they'd farm in the Dakotas and then come back here,
Yeah.
for harvest and whatever. So
Absolutely.
It was a good way to make money. And they said they really liked to get Scandinavians. They thought they were really good in the woods.
Well, that's because that's where they came from.
Well, yeah, and there was a fellow that worked down at the TV studio for a while, and whoops, don't tell me we were,
Oh.
I can't beat. that,
hello?
his grandfather ran logging camps. That was what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And he bragged that he ran camps that had fins.
Oh, the finish.
They were supposed to be really tough.
Oh,
I
boy.
mean, tough to get along with, and they like to fight. And anyway, that was what he bragged, that he could run a camp full of Finns. So,
Well, there's a badge of honor for him.
yeah,
And he probably could, with his Finnish, it was probably the language, right? You could speak it. If you could do that, probably in pretty good shape.
so this is the cook shack, or where they ate their meals.
Oh, I thought the art gallery there was kind of like that.
Wow.
I think they did that. They
Those
said
are
they used.
posters.
Yeah, I think they did that because it helped keep the drafts from coming in. You know.
It's highly possible. The old
Yeah.
newspaper in the crack was real common. I said, what
Yeah.
else could you use it?
Well, and then there's a couple of pictures of some pretty ladies.
Yeah, they
You
had
know.
something to look at here. Then they look at this. They had 3 guys that were fiddlers.
Playing music,
Yeah.
so you've got ambiance. But you know what impresses me the most is, right, these guys are living in the middle of nowhere, and they have coffee pots, and they have dishes,
Oh, they've got.
and
they're set up.
They are set up.
Can you imagine
Wow.
the appetites of these guys that have been out all day in the cold working? And when they come in, I bet that they want more than a little sandwich.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I bet they weren't doing
No
any
vegans in there, I bet.
Yeah.
no intermittent fasting going on.
Well, and there's bowls, you can see bowls of
Yeah.
bread and all kinds of stuff on those tables.
I bet when they sat down to eat, that was not a lot of conversation.
Oh, and here's the hardest part of the deal.
Yeah. This is the Chippewa River.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
Yeah, in the spring when they had to float those logs down to the sawmills.
That's
Yeah.
Well, and it was incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, these guys were the log drivers, and they wore these boots that had big spikes
Yes,
on them.
yep.
To
Yeah.
grip on the
They
logs.
had the pikes and they were out there and trying to unclog it. And when it went, you didn't know which one was the key one, but when it went, the whole bunch
Yeah,
was going.
that's right.
And that's where I think this log rolling kind of got going because
Yeah,
you better be
sure.
moving because this whole thing is coming down.
It was a pretty dangerous occupation. Now we're back to independence. And we're still not sure exactly. Someone said they thought this was B6 Bar.
Okay.
And that might be where the Eagle Tavern is today,
Yes.
I think. But it was funny, I had this on the internet. No, you don't think so?
Wasn't B6 over by the East End? The roller rink was next door.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
There could have been more than one B6 too. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, these pictures are 10 years apart or something, and they could be in more than one tavern.
Well,
I don't
and
remember drinking by that bar, so
this almost looks like Petrix that was over by the laundromat.
see? Now we're going to have to do a film on bars.
Yeah.
I'm very into that right now.
There we go. That's a way to keep
We'll grab
warm
the other
on a
halves
cold
and we'll go and we'll
Sunday.
try to verify where these pictures were taken.
And somebody saw this on the internet and they said, what were those jars on the floor for?
Those were spittoons.
They were for
Yes.
sticking your hand in and getting stuck, right?
This could almost be at Eagles too.
That's what somebody
That's what I said.
said. They
Yeah.
thought it was
I'm
the
thinking that-
Eagles.
Well,
See, that's what I'm going to have to, that's mystery files.
And they
yep, the mystery files.
Right
Yeah.
on your
Independence, somebody, a viewer from Independence will tell us who
Yeah,
that is.
yeah.
They probably know the person.
picture. They probably do.
There you go.
yeah. And this is another bar. It's not the one we just showed because it's different
No, it's
wallpaper.
got a different backing.
Yeah.
on, see?
Right. And it looks like there's a window or something over here. But it's
Huh.
kind of the same setup, you know. They got lots of spittoons anyway.
And the guy's got a bad aim.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
you can see it on the floor. My goodness.
Oh my gosh,
That's why
can
they
you
got the towels
imagine?
down
That's what
too.
said bad aim.
Oh, gosh. I like this guy here. He is enjoying his beer.
Absolutely. And the guy behind him looks like he's had a couple because he's awful smiley.
Yeah, well, you know what? He probably brought the wife into town to get groceries, and then he went in for a couple of beers and a bump.
There
Don't
you
think?
go.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and he's enjoying himself. But
Well, there were a number of taverns at one time in every small town, and they had their own breweries because
Yeah.
they didn't have cooling systems, you know, so the beer was all fairly fresh.
yeah,
I wonder if that's not Silver's.
See?
could be.
I wouldn't know. I never go to a tavern, but I mean, ladies
Well,
maybe.
and there was a bar called Poor Boys at one
You
time.
bet there was.
But I think that was a newer
Before Poor Boys, it was Dick and Myra's, I believe.
Oh, and don't forget there was Fila's too.
Yeah, and there was
Fila's
another
Farm Lounge.
Polly's there, but I just seen it on a sign driving by one time.
Oh, and this looks like the ladies are baking.
I think these are church basement
It
ladies.
sure looks like a church basement massacre.
And
I
they,
mean, and they got the job done.
It's a bake fest.
they were, I bet they were rolling lefse.
Yep.
That's
But
what
I
it looks
said,
like.
it was just elbow to elbow for people, but it got the job done.
Yep. And now they're having coffee, so you
There
know they're
you
going to
go.
be able to roll out a lot more after that once they get coffeeed up again.
Mrs. Branham used to say it was coffee.
Coffee?
It was coffee. And she'd pour it in that cup, and that cup was just jumping. It was so hot. And
Down the hatch it'd go.
I said, man, that lady could eat fire.
Now, do you know what this is?
Heat register.
Yep.
See? Jukebox? Oh.
No,
It's a vent.
It's a grate in the floor,
Yeah,
right?
heat register.
I have
yeah.
those in my house.
And that's how people used to heat the upstairs, if they did heat the upstairs.
Our furnace was right over that when we were kids. My younger brother walked on there, and he had them marks on the bottom of his feet.
Oh,
Oh.
gee. It's got that
furnace
warm.
was warm.
Furnace was cranking.
He didn't stand on there long, but he did find out. Don't stand on that right away.
Yeah, if you heated the upstairs, that's how they usually did it.
There was a turning one, the pretty ones that you could open the dial.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty fancy, though.
no, cost is no object. I thought.
Oh boy. Nancy's touching a nerve on this one.
Well, have you ever seen this before? They're advertising wallpaper for a children's bedroom. And what is it soaked with?
DDT.
DDT. This is not recommended in
Nowadays.
2025.
Ready
audience.
pasted wallpaper kills flies, mosquitoes, ants, and there's probably more things too.
The bad thing with DDT, a little was good, so everybody thought a lot was better.
Yeah.
And that's what made it really bad. Because I know my father said, he said, you could spray that along the big door in the end of the barn. We could drive in the tractor. And he says, you'd spray it all the way around. A fly went in the middle and it fell down. He said, I mean, this stuff was bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it got to our birds and it got in the system. And you probably still could find DDT.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I know when they had collection here down at Galesville there, you bring in toxic stuff. And we had some strychnine corn for poisoning gophers.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah, so we took that down there and you got in there and there's people come out with hazmat suits and gas masks and you park on the plastic and stay back, and they go in there and I said, well, how do you think they got in the truck? I mean, it's here,
Anyway, they don't do this anymore.
No, that
right?
is not
But I
recommended.
bet you it
at
worked.
all.
I bet you there was no bugs in that room.
Now, this was the old school in Galesville, the original big public school, and it was on the upper table. And this got taken down, and then it was replaced by one that was built in, I think, 1908. And it was just about the one that replaced this was almost identical to the one in Independence
Okay.
and Whitehall and here in Arcadia.
Yeah, the square
And
square
Galesville,
blocking.
Yeah, they replaced it. The one they replaced it had the 2 stories, and that was when I went to grade school. They used that, and eventually they tore that down, and now it's like an apartment building.
Huh.
But that had been the school, and somebody asked me, well, where was the school in Galesville? Well, it was always in the same place, pretty much. When they tore this down, and I think that's what's going on in this picture.
Yeah.
Then they replaced it.
Every town,
right
I said,
away.
up the ante, we had to put in new schools, there
Right.
more children than we could hold, and so they expanded.
Yeah.
Ours used to be on top of the hill here in town,
This
up by
is-
the mini mart.
It's not a big school either, really.
Then the high
when you
school was
look at
down
it.
here, but we wore the high right out of it. There was no education higher than 8th, so they had to build a new one.
And this is a pump organ.
And it's in Old Main.
Yes.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Just a guess.
Yes, it is. And it was donated by, I think it was the Ravnum family. But that was a lot of work because to get it to make any noise, you had to pump those pedals.
Well, we had them children here for the Love Lights here, and they can play violins and stuff, and I can't even hum a tune, and they know all the... And some of them children, the violins were bigger than them, but
Yeah.
they could play.
Yep.
I mean, the knowledge to run a musical instrument is, you got to start young, I think, because at our age, I think it's hopeless.
Yeah, I would agree that. I would agree that.
But it did take a lot of energy to get
You bet.
these things to play. You had to pump, 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 pump. It's like a bellows, right?
The
Yeah.
organ
Yeah.
here, I says, there's a bellows in here. You turn on the wind down here so you can play upstairs.
Now, this for a while was a fad. You could get a plaid refrigerator.
I thought it was a bed hanging on a wall there. And
I
I kind
thought
of
it
looked
was a
The
plaid
refrigerator.
sheet because
Yeah.
I remember when
Yeah.
plaid sheets were the thing.
You could get it. Now, she's modeling the different designs you
Oh.
can get your refrigerator in.
or wrapping it for
Yeah.
Christmas, maybe. I'm not sure what's happening there. But
See, it matched the curtains. You know, why
oh,
not?
well then.
Yeah, yeah.
You couldn't find a refrigerator for midnight snack because everything's the same.
Be stuck in the curtain, trying to find the handle. to open
Opening
it.
a window, and that'll wake you up. That's not the refrigerator.
And this was actually, I think it was International Harvester, was making
That won't surprise me.
refrigerators for a while.
You
and
still
they
find them
came up-
energy burners
Yeah.
out there, and they're still working.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The way I price of a pickup,
They just
they
never
were heavy,
quit.
heavy.
Now, this is not Arcadia or Trempealeau County. This is
Stone walls got to
this
be
is
overseas.
where my ancestors came
Oh.
from. And look what they had in surplus.
Rocks.
Rocks, yes.
There might have been a shortage with all that doggone fencing that they did there.
It's amazing. And if you could notice, they didn't have any gates. There's no gates. If you wanted to get,
Well, probably nothing would grow there after picked all them rock. They're down to bare dirt.
Well, how did
And
they
then
get livestock in and out of the paddocks?
There had to be.
they would take down a section of the wall,
Oh, okay.
you know, and then put it back up again, which I think seemed like a lot of work, but
Well, a lot of work right there. I
I
said.
think so.
Well, they used to dig them hill forts. They dig a trench all the way around. I think, how many hundreds of people did
Yeah.
that take to do that? You know, I said for protective purposes, but even so, how long are you going to live there? Because I says it's going to take forever to do that.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a lot of work, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the folks in the central part of the state talk about having to pick rocks.
Right, that's right, they do.
That ain't nothing compared to this.
I know it. And this is, these walls, this is a picture that I took when I was there, because a lot of them had really different patterns, how they put the rocks. This was different because the rocks were in there vertically. Usually they're laid, you know, horizontally.
Yeah.
He maybe was running short of rock, so he had to make them go farther.
Make them
So,
go taller.
Yeah, he had to. It could have went wider, but see, we're going to run out. It's a small.
Yeah, we don't want to run out of rocks.
So
That's right.
We're going to make this a skimp on a rock.
And all the houses were made out of rocks.
No wonder he's short.
Yeah, yeah. He made the house too big, apparently. But yeah, they did not have any gates. They just tore part of it down. Now, you recognize this one?
Even with and without the brush on it.
Yeah. You recognize that, Mary?
No.
You were standing there one time in
Yeah,
that
this
corner.
summer.
Oh, okay.
See, just
yeah.
like that.
Just like that.
Yeah, this was Joe Slobby's
Tailor's shop. yeah.
tailor shop in
Yep.
Dodge. Yeah.
You betcha, and it's decorated up for the season too. See that?
And when we were looking at it this summer, it was just about completely
It was a
encased.
little harder.
A
to
little
see.
overgrown at the
Yeah.
time, yes. But this is
Yeah.
what it looked like. I said,
But this
underneath
is what's underneath it, and it's just a cute little shop.
It is.
And you said that
Wow.
he had a reputation as a very good tailor.
He was a super tailor, yes. But I said he ended up, I said, little mental problems and shortened his life a little bit.
Well,
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 nice.
you know, we don't have tailors in town anymore.
no, that I know of.
Seamstresses or, you know, I don't even know if can you buy bolts of yarn locally?
of yarn.
The old Mashur
Yarn.
store is gone. We can't go in
Yeah,
there and get some
yeah.
at the Mashur store no more.
Pretty hard.
I don't
to-
know where you buy yard goods. We may have to visit our people by Blair direction. Those people still probably get in the yards.
Oh, the Amish have got some
See?
yeah.
fabric stores. You bet.
We'll go
Yeah.
to the Amish Walmart.
Yeah.
I bet you there's some there.
Well, that's it, folks. I think, or no, I think I got one more here. This
Yep.
one is for Jim. You recognize these guys?
Sure, that's Ralph. There's George. That's Bill. Amel's back there. There's John. He's that guy. He's got the mustache. Billy's over there. That's Bill. Younger brother of this.
These are the Marines, and they are arriving in France. These are the first Marines.
Or that's what I said. I recognize all the guys. Some of them guys live forever.
And apparently they just got off this ship that's behind them. And I don't know, they're all lined up there. What are they going to do? Take roll call or something? Make sure nobody...
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Probably.
They're waiting for their orders.
Yeah. So they had no idea what they were going to be encountering. And the Marines, American Marines in World War I, they took a drubbing. They just...
Got pounded.
They did. It was terrible.
Oh,
But...
You must have said something bad. It beeped at you.
We have just lost
One
the
camera,
10.
One camera. Oh no, we gotta hurry up here.
We have to wrap this up, folks.
I showed this picture to my son that was in the Air Force. And he looked at it, he said, I wonder how many of them were left by that fall, because they just went through the Marines like crazy.
You gotta remember, if you're in the Air Force, you don't get surrounded. That's what I told Dan.
That's right. All right, I do think this is the end of our little, trot down, interesting pictures.
Interesting picture lane.
Yeah. So
Those guys are probably waiting for a meal too, I bet. We're back to that cooking thing again.
Well, we want to thank you all for joining us on the History Files.
And it was just too cold to do anything outside today. And it was great because Jim and Mary, they behaved. This was great.
Oh, yeah?
Anyway, bye, folks.